Hello, everyone. I'm Colin Tessier of WrestleZone.com, joined by John Clark tonight to talk about WWE NXT 2.0. John, how you doing?
Can't complain. What about you?
Can't complain. It's a Tuesday night, coming right off the heels of NXT 2.0. As we often joke here, that's the equivalent of toaster time. Although worth pointing out, no jacket time tonight. So, I guess that's kind of a good thing. But
That doesn't necessarily mean it won't be the other way around, though.
You are correct. But there's plenty to dig into, some good, some bad, lots of in between. Before we do this, I want to remind you all this show, like everything we do here, is available on all of our platforms, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. You know where to find us. Leave a like and subscribe. We appreciate it. I guess we might as well just dive right in. There were a few really big stories tonight, and the one big one was the main event: Dolph Ziggler versus Tommaso Ciampa in a singles match where the winner would earn a shot at the NXT Championship. Now, these two have been kind of feuding for a couple weeks now. Ziggler, obviously a Raw superstar, coming over to NXT, hoping to get the NXT title. Ciampa, kind of the heart and soul of the brand at this point. So kind of a cool, if not generational clash, at least like a clash of two eras, I guess, because Ziggler never came through NXT and Ciampa's been there the whole time. So, there's definitely an interesting story there. We saw Ciampa pinned Robert Roode in a tag team match last night where Ziggler teamed with Roode to face Ciampa and Finn Balor. So, got a little preview there, but this match definitely exceeded my expectations. I think we know that Ciampa can put on great matches any given night. We know Ziggler can do that as well. He hasn't got to do it a whole lot on Raw these days, so this was a nice reminder that Ziggler is very good in the ring. So definitely a very good main event match here. It got some time, which is always good. And in the end, an interfering cameraman helped Ziggler win the match. And of course, that cameraman turned out to be Robert Roode. Is Robert Roode coming down to NXT now to join Dolph Ziggler here? I'm a sucker for these cameraman spots. Like, I had a feeling it was Robert Roode when it happened. For a split second, I thought they might try and do something a little off the wall. Who also might be, I don't know, but it was Robert Roode. And then Braun Breaker made the save when they proceeded to attack Tommaso Ciampa, setting up a tag team match seemingly for next week. DJ saying, "Damn those dirty dogs." And Steven Chambers saying, "Glorious to see Robert Roode in NXT." John, what do you think about the main event? Ziggler winning, and at least for tonight, not really knowing how it's going to move going forward, Roode coming down to NXT as well.
So I think, to nobody's surprise, this was the match of the night. I think that when you give Ziggler a new opponent that's fresh and time, he'll deliver, and he did. So ultimately, Ziggler had to win. They've been on this feud for a month, basically setting this up. This is going to be a pretty big deal at NXT Stand and Deliver. If that's where they do it, I hope so. With the potential to draw people in, because they have officially announced tonight it will be in Dallas. It will have fans. It will be on April 2nd, the same day as WrestleMania. So we can safely assume this will be a midday event. This will be a matinee, as you may say. So I'm thinking maybe 11 or 12 in the morning local time it'll start, which means like probably I'll say 11 local time, noon in the East Coast, probably when it'll start. It's going to be interesting. I see the comment from DJ says, just upset on how the good match was ruined at the end, hoping for a clean finish. I think this was fine. The finish was fine. I kind of still protected both somewhat. So I'm interested to see what happens. I think we can all safely assume Ziggler is not going to win the title, but it should still be a good match.
Absolutely. I would be surprised if Ziggler won the title. Anything can happen, but the whole point of 2.0 is to build new stars. Giving the NXT title to a guy like Dolph Ziggler, probably not the best way to do that, or not the kind of representative of that, right? Braun Breaker very much the face of NXT 2.0. So I think beating a guy like Dolph Ziggler will really help him along in that sense. Now, Ziggler did mention before he won the match ultimately when he was teasing the fact that he would get a title shot. He said, he framed it in a way that he teased like, "Oh, you might not even make it to Stand and Deliver." Like, he kind of at least planted to see that he might get a title shot sooner. Although it would make more sense to have that be the marquee match for Stand and Deliver. But at the same time, we know that WrestleMania is now 39 days away, so that would be 39 days away for Stand and Deliver. So I'm not sure how exactly they could really draw it out all that much, but I think that would probably be the right call. Steven was asking if Stand and Deliver will be on Peacock. I believe so. If it's on the Saturday, I would assume so.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, like otherwise it'd be outside of their standard broadcasting slot for NXT on Tuesdays. So I would have to assume it would be on Peacock. I don't think they've officially confirmed that yet, but that would seem to be a pretty good guess. You point out that you didn't mind the finish, and I would agree that it didn't ruin what was a very good match. Nestor calling it a good match as well, a great match even. Ziggler always puts on great matches. And yes, CJ, he has called the show off for a reason. I mean, Dolph Ziggler, when you give him time to go, he's going to put on a very good match. And yeah, it's a good opponent in terms of Dolph Ziggler, but O'Brien pointing out, he's saying it was an electric match, and Steven saying that Ziggler's a good opponent, but I didn't see anybody beating Braun for a while. I would have to agree. We've talked about this before, but I think both Braun Breaker and Kamal Hayes both are kind of slotted in as the champions for the foreseeable future, really until they might want to call those guys up sooner and later. But they seem to be pretty locked in right now. But very, very good main event. This, John. I've said it once. I'll say it again. When NXT focuses on the wrestling, still a pretty darn good show. When it doesn't, that's when we run into trouble. So let's kind of bounce back and forth with some things here. We had a series of vignettes tonight, John, of Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs filming for a dating app. And for what I don't know which one's which, Brooks Reed and Jensen or whatever, whichever one wanted to get a date,
That was Jensen.
That was Jensen. Okay, sure. He got duped into thinking that you need to film videos for a dating app, and he just started delivering some really rough lines. And I know the point is they're supposed to be bad. Okay, they're supposed to be very, very cringy. The one line stood out among the rest. Was that he said, "Are you a cornfield because I'm stalking you," or something like that. I was like, what?
And then he goes off. He says something about like, I like men, but then he's like, but not in that way. But then he was like, but there's nothing wrong with that if you do. And I was like, oh boy,
Man, just
toe the line.
Oh my gosh, just like I don't know what we're doing here, man. Just like all of it, just like this really turned me off. Then there was the whole like vignette of Raquel Gonzalez and Cora Jade at some adventure park. They're zip lining. Raquel's apparently afraid of heights. They're trying to bond, form a team. Just cringy stuff, man. It's like this was like Kyle O'Reilly and Von Wagner in the Woods level. Just like weird and I can respect trying to go a little, outside the box, but Deidre saying that was good. I mean, if you like it, more power to you, but boy, just the wrestling, man. When they focus on the wrestling, it's good. And then, like, I'm not saying it has to be all wrestling all the time, but like NXT 2.0, the stuff we've seen outside of really good matches, outside of some of the characters that are working, not so good. But boy. And then if you factor in some of the other characters, we got one vignette of Wendy Chu and Dakota Kai. Wendy Chu was trying to sleep backstage, and she said something like, "Oh, I can never sleep here." It's like, dude, like, you're at the arena. You're not supposed to be sleeping. I know that's her gimmick, but like, it's inherently just like nonsensical. It's like there's that, and then there's Brian saying there's too many romance angles. We had Persia Parodic backstage, and they've been doing this kind of slow burn romance with Duke Hudson, and Duke just grabs her and like pulls her in for this really like intense kiss. Indy Hartwell shows up, and she's like, "Oh, that's gross," and then Duke says, "Oh, gross, like we used to do it all the time," and she said that was a while ago, and then Duke said it doesn't have to be that like ancient history, and the camera pans over to Dexter Loomis, and Dexter hangs his head. And he just walks away so heartbroken. And I'm like, oh, man. Like, I tweet about it, and Herman saying, poor Dexter. The day they take Index away from me, John's pumping his fist, but the day they take Index away from me, man, this is one of the last very few things that I actually enjoy about NXT these days. The day that goes, man, it's gonna be a dark day. I know you're happy about it, John, so you can share your thoughts on it, but
Uh,
I'm sad.
yeah, I'm pretty happy about it. I think that it's much needed and interesting. And originally how we talked about that Dexter was going to pull the axe out on Indy. Well, now he might pull the axe out on Hudson. So as long as we get the axe, or that whatever you want to call it, I would be happy. I think this is interesting. This has the potential to be that uh, Jerry Springer type thing you get where there's all this drama and Persia's in this, and then Persia walked away, and then Duke was there, and then Indy was there, but then Persia might think, well, did Indy do something? And Dexter's thinking, did Indy do something? And it's gonna be pretty wild. So I no DJ, there's no toaster here because that's good. That's good. That's good news right there. We need that to happen.
We agree to disagree on that one, but I fully expect that this blooming conflict or the storyline will definitely lead to Persia and Indy losing their match in the Women's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. Looking at the brackets here, they'll be facing, of course, Wendy Chu and Dakota Kai. So it looks like a pretty safe bet that Wendy and Dakota will be advancing into the semifinals there. Boy, I mean, I kind of like the idea of that mixed tag team match. I'm okay with the idea of like playing with it a little bit, going with some kind of, as you said, maybe some uncertainty of like, oh, is there anything with Indy and Duke or whatever it might be, and then if we can somehow still get to a happy ending anyway. I realize nothing lasts forever, but like I'm not ready to say goodbye to Index yet, so I'm okay. Like I said, if they kind of try and complicate it a little bit, kind of like tease it a little bit, but not yet, man, not yet. But I just brought up the Women's Dusty Road Tag Team Classic. We saw the first two quarterfinal matches tonight. Looking at the bracket right now, the first one was Io Shirai and Kaylee Ray versus Lash Legend and Amari Miller. Pretty easy to predict here. You had two former champions here with Io and Kaylee Ray. Right before this match started, I forgot exactly who was in the tournament, so then I looked. I don't love the choices in the bracket. So once Io and Kaylee Ray came out, I was like, all right, I'll root for them because at least they're former champions, and I like Io, I always have, and Kaylee Ray's pretty darn good. So and exactly, Steven saying that they are the favorites to win here. I would agree. I think there's some other realistic options. Nash thinks she likes these two together. Not a very long or all that competitive match. Was a pretty decisive win for Kaylee Ray and Io Shirai. Any thoughts on this match or the team, I should say, of Kaylee Ray and Io Shirai, John?
Not really. I mean, it is what it is. It's kind of just thrown together last minute, so it's not really anything that interesting. But I'm willing to see how far it goes. I mean, we've seen teams that aren't really getting along win before, so
Could happen, yeah. But one team that is getting along pretty darn well is Casey Catanzaro and Caden Carter. They are one of the very few tag teams in the bracket here. They've been in a team for quite a while. Brian's saying they're his pick to win. Because they're a true team. I would agree. Now they won their first round tag team match here against Ivy Nile of Diamond Mine and Tatum Paxley. Someone we haven't seen a whole lot. I guess she was kind of a Diamond Mine member by proxy, or they're kind of recruiting her a little bit. Caden and Casey both look pretty darn good. As I said, they are a tag team, so you would hope that they would have good chemistry, and they do. They have experience as a team there, so that definitely worked in their favor. Ivan Isle and Tatum Paxley not so much. And then after the match, Ivy was upset they lost, so she attacked Paxley to kind of make it clear that she might not be in the Diamond after all. But moving forward here, Nesh is saying that Casey and Caden are her picks, and she wants them to be the champions. So at this point, we already know that Io Shirai, Kaylee Ray advanced, Caden Carter, and Case Canzaro advanced. On the other side, you've got Indy and Persia versus Wendy Chu and Dakota Kai. And lastly, I mentioned a couple minutes ago, Cora Jade and Raquel Gonzalez versus the upstart team of Yulissa Leon and Valentina Feroz. Based on those that bracket and what we've already seen at the beginning here, John. Now that we know the bracket and we've seen it begin, who would be maybe both your realistic pick and maybe who you're rooting for at this point, if those are different answers.
for the women's Dusty Cup, right?
Mhm.
I would probably have to say uh, Indy and Persia are probably going to win.
Really?
That's who I think, who I want. I mean, I honestly don't really mind or care. So I'll just say that's where I would go. What about you?
I mean, I don't think it's going to be Indy and Persia. They're already kind of planting the seed for some, if not a breakup, at least some tension that could very well cost them their matches we were talking about a minute ago. And the fact they just challenged for the tag titles at what I think that was Vengeance Day. Yeah, I think that was Vengeance Day. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to have them turn right around and get another title shot. Not to say that couldn't happen, but I don't think that would be all that interesting. I think it'd be better to give another team a shot. And for me at this point, especially, definitely the three strong favorites to me have to be Io and Kaylee, or Cade and Casey, or on the other hand, Cora Jade and Raquel Gonzalez. DJC's Wendy Chu and Dakota Kai is the wild card, like we saw with Idris Nafe and Malik Blade. I think that's fair. I mean, Wendy Chu is literally sleeping half the time. Dakota Kai, they had a segment tonight. She didn't even know they're in the bracket. So there is kind of a dynamic of lovable losers or underdogs there, I guess. But a fun little tidbit from Michael here saying Io's never won the tournament to begin with, so having her and Kaylee Ray potentially beat Raquel and Cora in the finals, they are on opposite sides, so that could very well happen. Makes sense to me. I think that's a pretty good pick for the finals. Again, I don't see any real like inherent problem with it. That I think that could happen because both teams are the favorites, I would say, or at least two of them. But overall, I think it's going to be a good tournament. Like I said, I don't really love any of the teams like more than the other. I'm not trying to say I don't care, but like at least in the men's tournament, I had some some rooting interest in here. I'm like, I mean, a lot of talented people here, but not exactly a quote unquote fan of any team. So like I said, my picks probably realistically would probably be Caden and Casey, while acknowledging that they have a couple teams I could easily see winning at this point. But that will likely continue. They didn't officially, I think, announce for next week, but this was just the first night of multiple rounds for multiple nights for the tournament. So we'll see how it unfolds. Something we will see next week, John, will be Carmelo Hayes defending the North American title against Pete Dunne. This was briefly set up last week. I guess Pete Dunne confronted Hayes after or either before or after his match. I don't exactly remember, but planting the seeds for that match. And then Dunne confronted Carmelo Hayes tonight. And Carmelo certainly called the Pete Dunne kid, which I thought was pretty funny because Pete Dunne's been there much longer than Carmelo has. That's obviously the point. But setting up a match there briefly, Cameron Grimes got involved, and I thought there might be setting up a triple threat match. It's possible. We do know that Carmelo Hayes just defeated Cameron Grimes last week. So at the very least, next week, we'll see a singles match. As we talked about earlier, Carmelo Hayes, to me, definitely seems locked in as the champion here for a while. But just like the Ziggler match, I think this will be a very good match that will likely be the main event next week.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Who would be your favorite though? Like, who would you think should get the win?
I mean, I would say until they want to bring Carmelo Hayes to the main roster, I don't see him losing the title. Even I don't even know if they're ever going to do Braun Breaker versus Carmelo Hayes for the NXT title. Yeah, I just think they might be kind of held apart, and one of them's going to get called up eventually. So, especially on like a pretty brief build like this, I would assume Carmelo Hayes would be a pretty strong favorite. Steven Chambers saying he predicts that he's going to retain the title next week, and I would agree. I like the idea of a triple threat match if they can draw it out, maybe to do that for Stand and Deliver, but that is again several weeks away, so I'm not sure how that could stretch it out that much. But I tweeted about this during the show, and I'm sure we've talked about it before. Carmelo Hayes has all the tools he needs to succeed on the main roster. He's very good in the ring. He's got very good charisma. He can talk. He's got a good look. And I tweeted about it during the show tonight. I said, like, oh, if WWE plays the cards right, he could be a big star on the main roster. And I got a response that said, like, you could say that about anybody, any big star on NXT over the past couple of years. And unfortunately, it doesn't always pan out. But he has a very strong foundation. Like as I said, I really think he has the skills, and I'm sure we're going to see that next week. He's going to put on a show-stealing match with Pete Dunne. I think that's going to be very, very good. But would definitely one of those matches where I don't think the outcome's all very really in question whatsoever. Not as a knock on Pete Dunne, but again, I just feel very confident that it's Carmelo Hayes' time right now.
Yeah, I would agree.
Someone else whose time it was tonight was Grayson Waller picking up a win over LA Knight. This match opened the show after a brief promo with Braun Breaker and Dolph Ziggler. This was a very good match as well. I got some time, but John, these two guys, other than a couple like gaps here and there, they've been feuding since October. It is now February. It's time.
And I know you said you wanted this to end, but I'm thinking that there's likely a rematch at NXT Stand Deliver with some kind of stipulation to really put this thing to rest. It was a messy ending tonight, really. It was. The timing seemed really off. There was some awkward like roll-ups and awkward moments, and I just thought the end was a little off. And I saw I mentioned, this needs to be it, but I don't think it's quite it yet.
I can't disagree. Sangha helped Waller win the match. You mentioned the kind of a sloppy ending. He helped Waller like counter a move from LA Knight, and then he wound up pinning Knight and holding onto the tights. And then Knight like kind of evaded Sangha after the match, and then beat up Grayson Waller after the match to kind of set that up. The fact that it does feel like there's going to be more here. Dragging out all the way to Stand Deliver, like that's another month and a half, like again 39 days, like man, if they could find a way to keep it interesting, all right, but by and large, like especially when you again Knight went away for a couple weeks, they got roped into the War Games match, so it's not like they've been directly one-on-one feuding the whole time, but it's been going on for quite some time now. DJ agreeing with you, John, about the stipulation. They may be something like a loser leaves NXT kind of thing. We have seen LA Knight in some dark matches here, so on the main roster, so that's possible. I can't really speak to that.
What's interesting about all this too is let's not forget the last time that we did see Johnny Gargano, Grayson Waller was a major participant in that. So theoretically speaking, if Gargano wanted to come back, they could pick up from there if they wanted to, where maybe he screws over Waller or
It's possible. At this point, Johnny Gargano still a free agent. His baby was born, so I'm sure he will continue to kind of focus on that for the time being. And then beyond that, who's to say? But DJ agreeing, at least from a storyline perspective, that Gargano needs revenge. I would agree. But if that does happen, I think it wouldn't be for a while. So I don't know if it would overlap with this. Like even if they drag it out to Stand and Deliver, I feel like for now, like he's going to be focusing on that as he should. But overall here for this feud, I would definitely agree with Brian Everett. LA Knight is too good for NXT. Like he's definitely one of those guys. I'm very surprised that he's been on NXT this long. Because I think he looks like $1 million. He's great in the ring. He can talk as good, if not better, than most people on NXT at this point. So again, just like Carmelo Hayes in a lot of ways, got all the tools, and for whatever reason, just they haven't really called him up again. He's been on some dark matches. I think he may have even been on a main event before, but not an actual call up. So maybe after WrestleMania, who's to say? But speaking of people who need a push, in terms of LA Knight maybe going up to main roster, DJ saying Dante Chen needs a push. Dante Chen faced Duke Hudson tonight. This was the continuation of a mini feud we've seen for a couple weeks now. Hudson's attacked Chen a couple times here and there. They've tried to build up something here a little bit, and then Duke Hudson won. So the good guy did not get revenge here in this case. I thought it was fine. Like it wasn't a match to really write home about. And it only really to me set up the Duke Hudson Persia Pro thing later in the show. I don't even know if Dante's gonna get a rematch because Hudson won, and there's not really a reason to do it again. So, what have you thought about Dante Chen so far? He's one of those guys that's been kind of featured here and there, but any kind of impression made on you so far?
I don't really think he's impressed that much, really. I mean, he's been treated as a higher priority than he's been, coming across as. So they want him to be a big deal, but it's just hard for me to really look at him that way. Chen cut a good promo beforehand, But I mean, it's quite obvious he's not comfortable on the microphone yet. He's still trying to get to that point. Like everybody in NXT, it's a work in progress. That's why they're there, to get better and stuff like that. Uh, this is crazy to say that we're down even another notch now, but I feel like, he could be a guy that might be good for like NXT level up. And that's like basically, we might as well call it like NXT dark. That's really what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
except, you know, it truly is like green, like basically like their first time in front of an actual crowd. That's the point of doing it. Like, not just in the back where there's no crowd. Like, this is their first chance to get comfortable in front of people and talking and things like that. So I think he would be more suited for that, at least at this point.
On the flip side, we've got a couple of comments speaking highly of Duke Hudson. DJ saying Duke has the Deadly Razor's Edge. That was the finisher he used in this match. I thought it looked pretty cool as well. And in a more general sense, even saying that Duke Hudson is improving from what we saw previously. I think I would agree. And I think if they do this kind of storyline with potentially Index and Persia getting in the mix there as well, I think that could be a good chance for him to really showcase that. So I think that'd be a good spot for him. So, and Brian also agreeing that Chen might need a little more time here. But really, you mentioned NXT Level Up, NXT 2.0 in itself. Like, both shows really are just meant to, as you said, maybe in different at different levels, really kind of meant to develop and groom and help people grow. And level Up is definitely meant for the, as you said, kind of the notch below 2.0. But there's definitely some overlap in a general sense. But on the flip side, but we just thought that Dante Chen needs more time, but DJ saying Chen's way better than Nikita Lyons. Nikita Lyons made her debut tonight. They've been hyping it up for a couple weeks now, a couple of vignettes. Now, this confused me a little bit because we've seen a couple of vignettes here, and like in one of them, she was just like laid back DJ character, kind of. And then in real life, at least, we know she's a nunchuck master. And then she comes out in this like fighter gear. She's wearing like what looked like a shield vest almost, and she looks like a pretty badass, like intense fighter. And that was kind of how she came across in the ring. So I definitely got the sense that they don't really know what they want her to be yet, and it's her debut, so that's fair, but not exactly the best. Not the best sign for a debut. To like NXT these days is about the character, and if you're debuting, and at least for me as an individually, I'm saying I got the sense that it seems a little undecided, not the best. I saw some people seem to really respond positively to her debut. I saw a lot of people were comparing her to Nia Jax. If Nia Jax maybe had a stronger foundation of just like in-ring skill, whereas Nia Jax very much was a powerhouse and like this a giant, booked like a giant in a lot of ways. I think that I saw that comparison going around. Overall, John, what do you think about Nikita Lyons here? At least, again, it's only the first night, but first impression at least.
I thought that it was good that they had her work longer than just a typical squash match. So I think that she was able to take enough damage to show that she's vulnerable. Like you said, she's not being booked like a heel monster that can beat everybody to shreds. Like, there was some offense on her. She clearly has work to do before she can get to some serious competition, but I think she has the look that WWE wants in a female talent if they continue to develop her as a performer, both in the ring and on the mic. So I thought overall it was a pretty good debut, and I'm interested to see how they take this going forward once they kind of solidify what they want the character to be.
Yeah, and I would agree. I mean, it's a more favorable comparisons here. DJ saying Nikita reminds him of China, well, of course, legendary China, or Nicole Bass. I'm not as familiar with Nicole Bass. I've heard the name before. I think it was a similar kind of powerhouse or badass. And that's what she's known for. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was not a bad debut by any means. I thought she, again, I would agree. Once she's maybe a little more established as a character, that could be a good way to help her succeed here on NXT. But yeah, I do think that they need to kind of pick a lane a little bit. Brian's saying they should have Nikita do the fighter gimmick, and the finisher reminded him of Melina. And I would agree. There's definitely some similarity there as well. And then Steven saying the Lions pretty much kicked the crap out of her opponent, but it was not a squash match, as you said, John. It was at least a little competitive, and I think that is good to kind of show a little adversity, so you're not just going out there and winning a 1 minute squash match. That you're at least showing what they can do in a little more of a prolonged sense. So I think that's usually a pretty good way to do that. Oh, DJ, thank you for pointing out. Yes, Nicole Bass managed Sable at WrestleMania 15. That's a callback. Yeah, I remember I've heard the name in referenced in the Attitude Era. I'm just not quite familiar with the specifics there. So thank you, DJ, for the historical reference there. Something not so historical, more of the modern day here is Andre Chase, a guy who pops me every single time. We had an Andre Chase University vignette here tonight, and Andre Chase is talking about Von Wagner, and he's talking about intestinal fortitude, John. Intestinal fortitude. And one of the students asked him what that means. And I quote, "It means you've got big balls, Michael." It's just, oh my gosh. Like Andre Chase, he entertains me very, very much. Like he's one of my favorite parts of this show. And it's maybe a little unfortunate he'll be facing Von Wagner. I think they booked. I think they announced that for next week. I believe they set that up. I just thought this was very, very funny. And then like one of the students said, "Oh, Von's a big guy," and Andre's like, "Well, you're a big," and they bleeped it out. He just plays the part so well. You can tell he's. Well, it seems like he's having fun with it. I can't speak for him. He seems like he's having fun with it, and I think he's doing a very good job making the most of it. Even we've talked about this before. Even if he's a guy that's not going to win a lot of matches, he just plays it so very well. I thought this is great. And then on the flip side, we had Von Wagner with a promo later. Well, I can't say Von Wagner. We had Robert Stone with a promo later in the show with Von Wagner sitting next to him. Von Wagner said less than 5 words, John. And I still was like, oh man, this guy. Robert Stone was talking and he was saying blah blah blah. It's Von Wagner's world. And so he said, it's Von Wagner's world. And Von Wagner said, and you're just living in it. And just like the delivery, I was like, the man has a manager. He's saying less than 5 words. And I still just like, it's not doing it for me, John. It's not doing it for me. And as much as I enjoy Andre Chase, I feel very, very confident, unfortunately, that Von Wagner is going to wipe the floor with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be probably a little bit like what you said. As far as the character growth goes for Andre Chase, it's been interesting to say the least. He's fit the role well, as you said. It also appears that he's having fun. But that doesn't mean I like it. That doesn't mean I like it any more than I did before. I still think that he's turning into a future jobber, essentially, with the character that he is in. It doesn't. It's not serious. You can't take it serious. Like, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, I would agree. You can't take it seriously as like a title contender or anything, but I think there is definitely a place for an entertaining character that's that's funny, that has good. He has a segment, and I feel good about it. Whereas some of the dating vignettes we saw tonight, or the Raquel and Cora thing, really just kind of turned me off of the show. Whereas Andre Chase, it's funny. It's funny. I like this comparison with Steven Chambers saying Andre reminds him of Chris Nowinski, famous Harvard graduate. I believe that's the same Chris Nowinski after his WWE career. Really became known for concussion studies and research. So definitely props to him for doing that, because I think he was one of the guys really kind of at the forefront of that. But no, definitely a good comparison, at least for the gimmick there, because he had a very similar gimmick in some ways when he was in WWE a long time ago. But Brian saying Von Wagner having a mouthpiece is working. I mean, it's working in the sense that he's not talking for himself. So when he has promos, it's not as bad as it was, because I think his previous promos were pretty much universally panned. Whereas again, now he's saying less than 5 words, so that's an improvement for now. Hopefully, ideally, I think for him to be really successful, he'll have to speak on his own eventually. But I guess that's a step in the right direction in the short term. Are you liking the combination, I should say, of Robert Stone and Von Wagner based on what we've seen so far, John?
It's all right. Nothing special. I think it's just another ordinary pairing from somebody that can't talk and has no character with somebody that does have those attributes. So
maybe in in the less harsh sense, Diamond Mine takes someone who has a great personality, who can really speak in a very compelling, entertaining way. You combine him with the Creed brothers, two guys that can definitely go in the ring. We haven't really seen what they can do as characters as in a promo sense, but we definitely saw them come out tonight to celebrate winning the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. Didn't get to talk about that last week, but yes, they did win the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, so they will face Imperium, and they set the stage that tonight with Malcolm talking about Imperium, talking about the Creed brothers and their athletic background. DJ's asking, do we see Imperium being in a six-man tag against Solo Sikoa and the Creed brothers? Well, Solo Sikoa attacked Gunther, or Gunter, I should say, formerly known as Walter, here tonight, and they'll be facing in a singles match next week. Could we see a six-man beyond that? Maybe. I think that would make sense. That's kind of the thing they usually like to do to draw these things out. And he also mentions potentially having Solo Sikoa joining the Diamond Mine. Maybe he kind of shot it down tonight, where Malcolm Bivens tried to kind of give him a high five and like establish a little bit of a bond there, and he just left him hanging and walked away, saying, "I didn't do it for you, I did it for me." At the very least, I think it could be like a loose alliance of like, common enemy of Imperium there. John, thoughts on Solo Sikoa stepping up to Walter and the fact that we're going to see that next week?
I'm excited to see where they take this whole thing moving forward with Gunther. I think that he has the potential to continue being a dominant force in NXT, and for him to look weak, it has to be people teaming up and forming a stable. So what they've been doing, I don't think Sikoa is going to join them, but he maybe just temporarily aligns himself with them to kind of get rid of Gunther and Imperium. However, I'm not convinced that we're going to see a title change anytime soon, but you never know.
The tag champions for
Yeah.
Imperium? Okay.
Yep.
That was a question that Steven asked as well here. He seems like he's agreeing that Imperium would retain in a match between the two. When that will happen, I don't know. As we were talking about, I think they might do this kind of Solo and Creed brothers versus Imperium thing for now. Again, Sandover is a couple weeks away. I'm not sure if they can draw it out all that much, but maybe they can. They can. Not saying that'll be good, but they can draw it out, do a couple rematches or whatever. It's possible, but definitely getting some positive comments about this match here, or this confrontation. Nesha saying she loves the fact that Solo laid out Walter or Gunther tonight. I would agree, Nesha. He's not Gunther. He will always be Walter to me as well. But the match next week, it will be Solo versus Gunther. Solo saying that it's going to be a bar fight. Steven, I think I mean that like metaphorically. As far as I know, it's going to be a singles match. But for all we know, maybe it'll start backstage or whatever. I think that'll be good. I mean, to me, more than anything, this seemed to suggest that not for the first time. This was another example that they are high on Solo. It's like you're going to put him in there with Gunther, win or lose. That does seem to kind of bode well for him. And kind of likewise here, Nesha saying she's happy to see Solo getting this push. I mean, even if he doesn't beat Walter or Gunther, it's a good spot to be in, and I think he'll have a good chance to stand out and have a good performance. So I'm curious to see how that happens, but I would probably think it's going to be some kind of six-man thing. But yeah, Bivens, endlessly entertaining. Brian saying that he had the best face when he was almost manhandled and mauled by Gunther tonight. And he says he's loving Solo versus Gunther here. So 1 week in, people seem to be really digging this so far. Something that I'm still not taking, John, is the fact that Draco Anthony's character is the fact that he just works out a lot and he's always at the gym. We had a brief vignette here or segment of Harland and Gacy confronting Draco at the gym. There's an altercation. They fight. It's going to be Harland versus Draco Anthony next week. I think we got asked this a couple weeks ago. Do you think this could eventually lead to Draco joining forces with Gacy and we get some kind of stable of sorts, or at least trio between the three?
Maybe temporarily. I don't see anything long lasting developing though.
Yeah, I think eventually we'll get there. I don't know if it's going to be Draco Anthony. I can't think of anybody specifically on the roster right now that I could say, oh yeah, they should be with Gacy and Harland. I just think I feel like we're going to get some kind of Wyatt family like thing there, but yeah, I'm not sure if it's gonna be Draco Anthony. I would pretty safely expect to see Harlan win pretty decisively there, and maybe not much beyond that. I should mention, that was the majority of the stuff we saw tonight. We got a couple segments with Toxic Attraction. They're sitting in the Toxic Lounge during the Women's Wrestling Tag Team Classic. I only really bring that up because we know that Gigi Dolan and JC Jane are waiting to see who they're going to defend the titles against with the Wrestling Tag Team Classic. But right now, it feels like Mandy Rose is kind of left in a bit of limbo, right? A lot of the top women's contenders in NXT are in this tournament. You've got Io Shirai, Dakota Kai, Kaylee Ray, Raquel Gonzalez, even though she's already faced Mandy before, Cora Jade, another one, but still one of the top contenders there. It feels like there's nobody right now that could really, like right now, this minute, step up and feud with Mandy Rose. And I just think that's an interesting spot to be in, unless you have like Io and Kelly Ray lose in the semifinals, and then have one of them maybe Io feud with her then. But I don't know, John. What do you think about that? Because usually, like as we've been talking about, Stand and Deliver is coming, so I feel like we would probably want to start having a good sense of where we're going in that sense as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I thought the appearances tonight were great as far as the promos they did and just the way they came across on TV. Just the attitudes they always have, I think, are fit the role perfectly. Now, as far as like you said with the future, there's a lot of things they could do. Like I don't know what they really have in store. If you were the main booker on creative, like would you kind of draw this out longer or like you think it's working, or would you be like, no, we need to kind of get this over with?
It being what, like her not having a contender, or
yeah.
I'm not. I mean, in a way, I've said a couple times here. They do have some time. Stand and Deliver is a couple weeks away. If they just want to do like a 3-week build, if that's fine, they could kind of hold off, like a best of both. It's like they don't need to, they could draw it out a little more right now, and then come mid-March or so, or maybe not quite then, but roughly thereabouts. Whoever is kind of out of the tournament at that point, again, maybe someone like Io Shirai, I think that'd be a pretty good match. But again, we've already seen Raquel Gonzalez. She just defeated Kaylee Ray a couple weeks ago. She's already defeated Cora Jade. Those would be probably some of the top contenders at this point. But no, I think for now it's fine. It just seemed a little interesting to me that tonight she was very much kind of on the back burner in some ways, and it makes sense that they started the tournament, but definitely felt like food for thought in some ways. Interesting clash personalities here. Brian Everett pointing out maybe someone like Dakota Kai could face Mandy Rose. I think that's interesting. They've hinted at it here and there. I think Dakota has like helped Mandy and Toxic Attraction before. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with Dakota Kai in the Dusty Cup, because she's teamed with Wendy Chu, seemingly a baby face. People seem to like her napping all the time, I guess. So maybe that could help Dakota turn back into a baby face at some point soon. And of course, it's worth mentioning that Dakota Kai, who's been there for several years now, has never held the title. So that's definitely a story that they could pretty easily tell. Raquel's another option. They could do a rematch at some point, depending on how long Mandy is the champion. So they do have options. There's no shortage of ways they could go, but at least for now, it does feel like we are going to kind of have to wait and see on that one. But overall, John, all things being equal here, the Women's Dusty Cup is kicking off. Ciampa and Ziggler and everything in between. What do you think about NXT tonight on a scale of 1 to 10?
Gonna go with a 6.
6?
Still below average. Not completely interesting to keep my attention the entire time. But you have to give them some points for trying and bringing in some main roster stars to try to even things out.
Ironically, I say it's someone that's been very harsh on NXT pretty regularly. I thought I should say my number feels like it should be propped up by the fact I really enjoyed Ziggler and Ciampa. I enjoyed some of the directions we got. Again, I think Hayes versus Dunn will be really good, and there are some other things I'm looking forward to as well. They have a couple 7s here with Steven Chambers with 7, Nesh with 7 as well. 3 7s in a row with Brian saying 7. So it was a wild show. I would say a 6.2 or so is fair, where like some of the bad stuff that I didn't care for really dragged it down for me. But I also feel compelled to elevate my score a little bit because I did think it was a very good main event. But Herman Takara agreeing was a 6 as well, and DJ saying a 7.5 dog. So a bit of a mixed bag overall here. I do want to mention DJ mentioning, yeah, I don't think we talked about it last night because the news broke fairly late, but Drake Maverick back in WWE. Meanwhile, for 7.12 from Kevin Taylor for NXT, but Drake Maverick back in NXT, a guy that's been released twice here. And I bring him up because he was on NXT last year or 20. No, I think that was 2020. Time flies, man. He was on NXT for a while, got caught up to Raw. Had a good run as in the 24/7 title scene. Then he got released again. Got released in 2020. Got brought back and then released again in November. But brought back again this time as a member of the Raw creative team. They could use him on screen possibly, but both a PW Insider and Fightful Select reported he was brought back as part of the creative team for Raw. And Drake Maverick confirmed today on LinkedIn. I believe he said that he's a writer / producer for Raw, which he could be in some 24/7 segments or anything like that. I don't necessarily see DJ's asking, could we see him going back to NXT? No, I mean I think he would probably stick with Raw for the most part. Not to say it's impossible, but no, I think he'll probably focus on that new role for now. And all I really have to say about it is good for him. He's a guy that's gotten released twice to kind of land back with the company yet again. I hope it works out this time. Unfortunately, WWE these days, more budget cuts could always be around the corner. So it really feels like anything could happen. I hate to say it. I don't like saying that, but like that is kind of a factor here. So I hope it works out. I hope that because I've heard reports that he's very well liked and well respected backstage, as he should be. I've heard nothing but good things about him. So good for him. Glad he's back with WWE, and I hope it works out. John, any thoughts about Drake Maverick coming back yet again?
If that's what he wants to do, and if that's what makes him happy, then all the props. I think that's the best for everybody. If he wants to be there and they want him to be there, then everybody's happy.
Agreed. Speaking of people who are seemingly happy, AJ Styles reportedly re-signed with WWE. That was another big story today from Fightful Select. The number they listed, or I don't know if it was them, but I saw at least one number going around that was believed to be $3 million a year. AJ Styles getting that big money as he should. He is a top star. He is the phenomenal one. He is one of the best in the game. So well deserved AJ Styles. It's reportedly a multi-year deal. Not quite sure exactly how. I believe I saw with his last contract, he said it would be his last contract, but now he resigned. So seemingly this would, I don't want to say extend his career, but it seems to suggest that he will be wrapping up his career with his contract as a in-ring superstar with WWE. And Brian likewise saying that he's probably going to retire with the company. But lots of comments, glad to see it. Steven saying he's glad AJ's staying. Another saying she's so happy about AJ. And Fightful's report, he wants to work in a behind-the-scenes capacity once he retires. So this could potentially mean that he's staying with WWE kind of beyond this in-ring phase of his career, possibly. That's more of a prediction than anything, but very good news. Big fan of AJ Styles. That's very, very good. Good for him. I hope to see, as we were talking about last night, maybe he'll face Edge WrestleMania to kind of bring in that new deal. I'm sure there are many worse ways, and I would say a few better ways than to do that. So, but I also agree with Steven saying hopefully at some point in the not too distant future, AJ will get at least one more title run. And I think that is very, very realistic. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with AJ Styles. That's over on the Raw side of things. We're here every Tuesday, whether it's toaster time or not, here to talk about NXT 2.0. Schedule permitting, we're here to talk about SmackDown on Friday nights, Robert DeFelice and I. Otherwise, we've got a great stream of interviews constantly coming at you guys. I interviewed Matt Cardona today, the reigning NWA World Heavyweight Champion, the reigning Impact Digital Media World Champion. The man does so much. He's all over the place. I got to talk to him all about it. That will be going up later this week. So make sure to keep an eye out for that one. John, you're going to SmackDown on Friday. That one's in Hershey, correct? Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, sold out crowd. It's going to be sold out. Pretty excited.
Nice. There you go. I'm sure hopefully that'll be fun. You're going to see Brock Lesnar hyping up his winner-take-all match with with Roman Reigns WrestleMania. So
Kind of
hopefully it'll
seen
be
that Naomi.
Naomi, maybe Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair. It's all the stars are many of the stars are over on SmackDown, and you've got everyone wishing you well, John. Hoping we have fun with Steven and Brian saying both that they hope you have a good time. Otherwise, we got a question from Nesha: when NXT does hit toaster time, John, are there Pop Tarts? This might be a deal breaker for some people on the NXT side of things here.
It does. It does have Pop Tarts in it, but I'm not gonna say what kind. You have to use your imagination to
What
determine what kind.
when I was a kid, I had
It's burnt toast.
when I was a kid, I had hundreds of blueberry Pop Tarts. I will always like have the taste of blueberry Pop Tarts just like burnt into my memory forever and ever. The blueberry ones and maybe like some of there's like they have some weird flavors these days, man. Like I like some of the classics, but maybe by having Pop Tarts, we can there's a redeemable aspect to toaster time here on NXT. Steven was the shout out to the strawberry Pop Tarts as well. I didn't have that one as much, but and there's some odd ones. If you like Pop Tarts, bring them over for toaster time, folks. Here Tuesday nights talking about NXT. I don't know how it got here, but there you go, John. Whether it's toaster time or not here on the NXT post show, whether it's the Raw show or whatever it might be, here at WrestleZone, we always come together to do one thing above all others. Can you tell me what that is?
Enjoy wrestling.
Indeed. Thanks for listening.